The United States immigration system is entering one of its most important transitional phases in recent years. As we move closer to 2026, multiple policy shifts, administrative changes, and enforcement priorities are reshaping how visas, green cards, asylum, and family-based immigration are handled. These changes are not happening overnight, but their impact is already being felt by immigrants, visa holders, students, workers, and families both inside and outside the United States. Many people are confused by headlines, social media rumors, and partially correct information, which is why it is essential to understand what is officially changing, what is proposed, and what remains the same. One of the most discussed developments in recent months has been the reorganization of processing priorities within the U.S. immigration system. Immigration authorities are increasingly focusing on efficiency, backlog reduction, and security screening. This means that while some categories are seeing faster movement, others are facing additional scrutiny and longer wait times. Family-based petitions, employment visas, and humanitarian cases are all being processed under updated internal guidelines that emphasize document completeness and background verification. Applicants who submit incomplete or weak applications are experiencing more delays than before, making accuracy more important than speed. For family-based immigration, especially petitions filed by U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents, there is a growing emphasis on relationship verification and fraud prevention. Authorities are cross-checking records more aggressively, including travel history, prior visa applications, and even social media indicators in certain cases. This does not mean approvals are stopping, but it does mean applicants must be extremely careful to ensure that every detail in their application is consistent and truthful. Small discrepancies that might have been overlooked in the past are now more likely to trigger requests for evidence or additional review. Employment-based immigration is also undergoing important changes. Skilled worker visas, including those for technology, healthcare, and engineering professionals, continue to be in demand. However, employers are now expected to provide clearer justifications for why a foreign worker is needed and why a U.S. worker cannot fill the role. Compliance audits are increasing, and companies that misuse visa programs are facing stricter penalties. For genuine applicants, this means better chances if their case is strong, but less tolerance for shortcuts or weak documentation. Student visas remain a key pathway into the United States, but rules around intent and compliance are becoming stricter. International students are expected to maintain full-time enrollment, follow work restrictions carefully, and demonstrate a clear academic purpose. Any violation, even minor, can affect future visa renewals or status changes. At the same time, graduates in critical fields are seeing more opportunities to transition from student status to work authorization, especially in sectors facing labor shortages. Asylum and humanitarian immigration remain highly sensitive and politically debated topics. The United States continues to receive a large number of asylum applications, placing pressure on the system. New procedural rules aim to speed up initial screenings while maintaining legal protections. Applicants are encouraged to present well-documented cases early in the process, as weak or incomplete claims are more likely to be denied quickly. This shift is intended to reduce abuse of the system while ensuring that genuine refugees receive protection faster. Border enforcement policies are also evolving. Authorities are balancing enforcement with humanitarian considerations, but enforcement mechanisms remain strong. Individuals entering the country without proper authorization are facing faster processing and, in some cases, expedited removal. At the same time, legal pathways are being emphasized more than ever, with officials repeatedly urging migrants to use official channels rather than attempting irregular entry. This reflects a broader strategy to restore confidence in the legal immigration system. Another significant development is the increased use of digital systems and automation. Online filing, biometric appointments, and electronic notifications are becoming standard. While this improves efficiency, it also means applicants must regularly monitor their online accounts and respond quickly to any requests. Missing a notification or deadline can lead to delays or denials. For many applicants, this digital shift is a learning curve, especially for older individuals or those with limited access to technology. Travel rules for visa holders and green card holders are also receiving attention. Extended stays outside the United States are being scrutinized more closely, particularly for permanent residents. Authorities want to ensure that green card holders are maintaining genuine ties to the country. Frequent or prolonged absences can raise questions about abandonment of residency, making it important for travelers to plan carefully and keep records that demonstrate continued U.S. residence. Public discourse around immigration is influencing policy direction as well. Immigration remains a major political issue, and proposed legislation continues to surface at both federal and state levels. While not all proposals become law, they shape enforcement priorities and administrative behavior. Immigrants should avoid reacting to rumors or sensational headlines and instead rely on verified updates and official announcements before making major decisions. For families waiting years to reunite, patience remains one of the hardest challenges. While some backlogs are slowly easing, others persist due to annual limits and high demand. Applicants are advised to keep their information updated, including addresses and contact details, and to respond promptly to any communication. Proactive preparation can make a meaningful difference when a case finally reaches review. Overall, the current direction of U.S. immigration policy reflects a combination of control, modernization, and selective openness. The system is not closing, but it is becoming more rule-focused and documentation-driven. Those who understand the rules, follow procedures carefully, and prepare strong applications are still finding pathways forward. The key is staying informed, avoiding misinformation, and making decisions based on verified guidance rather than fear or speculation. The discussion around U.S. immigration updates cannot be complete without understanding how enforcement priorities and compliance rules are quietly changing on the ground. While laws themselves may not always change dramatically, the way they are implemented can have a major impact on immigrants. In recent months, immigration authorities have shown a clear preference for strict compliance with existing rules rather than introducing sweeping new programs. This means people who are already inside the United States on temporary visas are being watched more closely for status violations, overstays, and unauthorized employment. One major area of concern for many immigrants is visa overstays. Even a short overstay can now have more serious consequences than before. Immigration databases are more integrated, making it easier for authorities to detect overstays during future applications. People who overstay and later apply for a new visa, adjustment of status, or even travel authorization may face additional questioning or denial. This is why legal advisors are increasingly stressing the importance of maintaining lawful status at all times and taking timely action if an extension or change of status is needed. Green card holders are also experiencing increased scrutiny, especially when it comes to travel and residency requirements. Lawful permanent residency is not just a document, it is a status that must be actively maintained. Spending long periods outside the United States without proper planning can lead to serious problems at the port of entry. Officers are asking more detailed questions about employment, residence, and intent to live permanently in the U.S. Green card holders who treat their status casually are at greater risk of complications. Employment authorization documents and work permits are another area where changes are being felt. Processing times have fluctuated, creating uncertainty for workers and employers alike. While some categories have seen improvements, others still face delays. This has real-world consequences, including job interruptions and financial stress. Authorities are encouraging early filing and complete documentation, but the reality is that demand continues to exceed processing capacity in certain categories. For undocumented immigrants, the situation remains complex and often stressful. While large-scale enforcement actions may not always be visible, individual enforcement continues. Priority is often given to those with criminal records or prior removal orders, but anyone without lawful status remains vulnerable. Community organizations and legal aid groups are advising individuals to know their rights, avoid unnecessary risks, and seek legal guidance when possible. Fear and misinformation can lead to poor decisions, which is why accurate information is so important. Temporary protected status and humanitarian relief programs remain subject to periodic review. Beneficiaries are required to re-register on time and follow all guidelines precisely. Missing deadlines or failing to update information can result in loss of protection. At the same time, there is ongoing debate about the future of such programs, creating uncertainty for thousands of families. While extensions are often granted, they should never be assumed. Another important trend is the increasing role of technology in immigration enforcement and processing. Biometric data, digital records, and automated checks are becoming standard. While this improves efficiency, it also reduces flexibility. Errors in the system can be harder to correct, and applicants must be proactive in identifying and addressing mistakes. Keeping copies of all documents, notices, and receipts is more important than ever. Marriage-based immigration continues to be a common pathway, but it is also one of the most closely examined. Interviews are becoming more detailed, and officers are trained to look for inconsistencies. Couples are advised to prepare thoroughly, provide strong evidence of a genuine relationship, and be honest in all responses. Even legitimate marriages can face delays if documentation is weak or incomplete. Public charge considerations have also returned to public discussion. While the rules may change over time, the general principle remains that immigrants should be able to support themselves or have adequate financial backing. Sponsors must meet income requirements, and applicants should be prepared to demonstrate financial stability. Misunderstanding these requirements can lead to unnecessary denials. Students transitioning from education to employment face a particularly challenging period. Optional practical training and other work authorization options provide opportunities, but they come with strict rules. Missing deadlines or working without authorization can jeopardize future immigration prospects. Universities and employers are advising students to plan well in advance and seek professional guidance when navigating these transitions. Family separation remains one of the most emotionally difficult aspects of immigration. Delays, backlogs, and administrative hurdles mean that many families wait years to reunite. While some processing improvements are underway, demand remains high. Applicants are encouraged to remain patient, keep their cases updated, and avoid falling for scams that promise quick results for a fee. Immigration scams are another growing concern. As rules become more complex, scammers take advantage of confusion and fear. Fake consultants, unlicensed agents, and misleading online advertisements can cause serious harm. People are urged to verify credentials, avoid sharing personal information unnecessarily, and rely on official sources or qualified professionals. The broader economic context also influences immigration policy. Labor shortages in certain sectors create pressure to expand legal pathways, while economic uncertainty can lead to stricter controls. Immigration policy is often reactive, adjusting to changing conditions rather than following a fixed plan. This unpredictability makes long-term planning difficult for immigrants but also creates opportunities for those who stay informed and flexible. Political debates around immigration are expected to intensify as elections approach. While campaign rhetoric can be alarming, actual policy changes usually take time. Immigrants should distinguish between proposals, executive actions, and implemented regulations. Acting based on rumors or political statements alone can lead to unnecessary panic. For many immigrants, mental and emotional well-being is an overlooked issue. Constant uncertainty, fear of separation, and financial pressure can take a toll. Community support, accurate information, and realistic expectations can help reduce stress. Understanding that immigration is often a long process rather than a quick fix is an important mindset shift. As the U.S. immigration system continues to evolve, adaptability remains key. Rules may tighten in some areas and relax in others, but the overall trend points toward stricter compliance and better documentation. Those who prepare carefully, follow rules closely, and seek reliable guidance are better positioned to succeed. As immigration discussions move deeper into long-term realities, it becomes clear that the future of U.S. immigration is not just about individual laws or temporary policies, but about a broader shift in how the system functions. The United States is increasingly moving toward a model where immigration benefits are tightly connected to compliance, documentation, and long-term contribution. This means that immigrants who plan carefully and stay informed are far more likely to succeed than those who rely on assumptions or outdated information. One of the most significant long-term trends is the normalization of extended processing times. What once took months can now take years, especially in family-based and employment-based categories. This delay is not always due to intentional restriction but rather the sheer volume of applications combined with limited administrative capacity. As a result, immigrants must learn to build their lives around uncertainty. Planning finances, careers, and family decisions now requires accepting that immigration timelines are flexible rather than fixed. Another reality shaping the future is the growing expectation that immigrants manage their own compliance actively. Immigration authorities are placing greater responsibility on applicants to track deadlines, maintain valid status, and correct errors proactively. Missing a notice, failing to update an address, or misunderstanding a requirement can have long-lasting consequences. The system is becoming less forgiving of mistakes, even when they are unintentional. For visa holders, particularly those on temporary work or study visas, the long-term outlook depends heavily on strategic planning. Short-term decisions such as changing employers, switching programs, or taking time off can affect eligibility for future benefits. Individuals who treat their visa status as a long-term project rather than a short-term permission tend to face fewer problems. This includes keeping detailed records, understanding eligibility pathways, and consulting reliable sources before making major changes. Green card holders face a different but equally complex reality. Permanent residency is increasingly viewed as a conditional privilege rather than an automatic step toward citizenship. Long absences, tax non-compliance, or failure to establish strong ties to the United States can raise questions about intent. In the coming years, green card holders are expected to demonstrate consistent residence, financial responsibility, and integration into U.S. society. This does not mean constant fear, but it does require awareness. Citizenship itself is also evolving in perception. While naturalization remains the most secure status, the process has become more rigorous. Applicants are expected to demonstrate not only basic knowledge and language skills but also a clear record of lawful behavior. Delays in naturalization processing have led many permanent residents to remain in limbo longer than expected. This reinforces the idea that immigration is a long journey rather than a final destination. Employment-based immigration is increasingly tied to economic demand and labor market conditions. Certain industries continue to experience shortages, creating opportunities for skilled workers, while others face tighter controls. Employers are under greater scrutiny to ensure compliance with wage and labor laws. For immigrants, this means that maintaining lawful employment and understanding employer obligations is more important than ever. Family-based immigration continues to be emotionally significant but administratively challenging. Long waiting periods place strain on families, forcing difficult decisions about separation, relocation, or financial support. Over time, families are learning to treat the immigration process as a parallel life track rather than a pause button. This includes maintaining relationships across borders, planning visits carefully, and preparing for long periods of waiting. Humanitarian pathways such as asylum and refugee protection remain subject to political and administrative shifts. While international obligations continue, access to protection can fluctuate based on enforcement priorities and resource availability. Applicants must be prepared for extensive documentation, long interviews, and prolonged uncertainty. Success often depends on consistency, credibility, and strong supporting evidence. Another defining feature of the long-term immigration reality is the increasing use of data and digital systems. Automated checks, electronic filings, and biometric verification reduce human discretion but also limit flexibility. Errors can propagate across systems if not corrected early. Immigrants are encouraged to review every notice carefully and act quickly if discrepancies arise. Public perception of immigration also plays a role in shaping policy outcomes. Media narratives, political debates, and economic conditions influence how immigration is discussed and regulated. Immigrants who stay informed without becoming reactive are better positioned to respond rationally to changes. Panic-driven decisions, such as abandoning applications or relying on unverified advice, often lead to worse outcomes. Financial preparedness is another long-term consideration that cannot be ignored. Application fees, legal costs, travel expenses, and potential job interruptions add up over time. Immigrants who budget realistically and plan for contingencies are less likely to experience crisis moments. Financial stability also strengthens applications by demonstrating self-sufficiency. Education remains one of the most resilient pathways within the immigration system. International students who choose programs strategically and comply with regulations often maintain multiple options for the future. However, the transition from education to long-term status requires careful timing and awareness of changing rules. Small mistakes during this transition can have lasting effects. Mental resilience is increasingly recognized as essential for navigating immigration. The prolonged uncertainty, fear of denial, and pressure to succeed can affect mental health. Communities, support networks, and accurate information help mitigate these challenges. Understanding that immigration struggles are common and not a personal failure can reduce isolation. Looking ahead, the most realistic expectation is gradual change rather than sudden transformation. While headlines may suggest dramatic shifts, actual implementation tends to be incremental. This means immigrants should focus less on speculation and more on practical steps they can control. Maintaining lawful status, keeping documentation organized, and staying informed remain the strongest strategies. In the long run, immigration success is less about shortcuts and more about consistency. Those who approach the process with patience, realism, and preparation are better equipped to handle delays and changes. The system rewards persistence and compliance, even if it tests endurance.